I rang the doorbell of a Millionaire's gate with my son sleeping in my arms and said the most humiliating phrase of my life. I work for food. What I didn't expect was that the man inside didn't just open it. He tried to silence me in the worst way possible. Because in seconds, hunger turned into a threat. My backpack tore on the ground. A security guard reached for my son. And the owner of the house said, coldly, that if I didn't cooperate, he would call the police and put my boy in the system. But there's a detail he didn't notice. I knew that face. And I had a phone recording. And a name that could destroy everything he built. Before I tell you this secret, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I walked across the sidewalk in Lake Forest with my son sleeping in my left arm, and my other hand stuffed in my coat pocket, trying to find a crumpled receipt I didn't even know why I was keeping. The wind cut between the houses like it had a specific address, and every gust pushed the hem of my coat against my leg, reminding me I was too light. Little Ethan, 4 years old, breathed short and hot against my neck, his cheek marked by the zipper of my torn backpack. I had spent the night sitting on the hard bench of a 24-hour laundromat, pretending I was waiting for a machine. When the revolving door of the supermarket closed behind me with nothing in the bag, I stopped at the corner and counted coins like someone counting seconds. Early in the morning, I tried the city shelter, and the woman at the counter didn't even look up from her tablet. She just pointed to a clipboard and said waiting list as if that were a blanket. Outside, a truck was unloading donations, and I saw boxes of food going in while my arm shook holding Ethan. I swallowed hard, adjusted his beanie, and gripped the backpack strap until my knuckles turned white. The street smelled of cold gasoline and fresh coffee coming from somewhere that wasn't for me. Have you ever noticed how polite the world gets when it wants to ignore you? No one screams, no one swears. They just pass by you like you're part of the landscape. I walked without a plan, just following the streets that were getting cleaner. The trees more aligned, the cars more expensive, as if I were entering a map that didn't have my name on it. That's when I saw the gate, black iron, too high, with a round camera looking straight at my face. Behind it, a big house, lit from within, the kind that looks like a movie set, with a perfect garden even in winter. I stopped in front, rocked Ethan carefully so he wouldn't wake up, and stared at that doorbell like it was a luck button. My tongue was dry, and I had to wipe my hand across my lips before speaking anything. It wasn't courage. It was necessity pushing my legs forward. I rang the doorbell with the tip of my finger, very slowly, as if someone could hear me through my skin. The sound inside was clean, beautiful, almost too elegant for the situation. I tilted my face to the camera, trying to look human and not like a problem, and spoke low, fast, because every second standing there felt like an invitation for someone to call the police. I can wash the driveway, sweep, whatever you need. In exchange for a plate of food, anything, even a cheap sandwich. Please. I hadn't even finished breathing when the silence on the other side became heavy. Long, the kind that makes you think about running back. I stood still, just holding my son tighter, waiting for what that gate was going to decide about my life. I was still staring at the camera when the intercom crackled, and a male voice appeared dry, as if ripped from the silence. What do you want? It wasn't a scream. It was worse. It was control. I raised my chin, swallowed hard, and answered as simply as I could, because any extra word could turn into an excuse to kick me out. Food. I work for food. I clean, wash, do whatever you say. I heard a breath on the other side as if he had laughed awkwardly, and then nothing. 2, 3 seconds. Oh no. 2, 3 seconds. Then the gate started to open with a slow, heavy motor, making that metal screech that makes you want to apologize just for existing. Who appeared wasn't a security guard with a radio on his shoulder. It was a man in his 40s, tall, unwrinkled, button-down shirt, a watch that shined even in the shadow of the gate. He looked first at Ethan, then at me, as if comparing two versions of the same story and trying to decide which was real. I took a step back instinctively, and my fingers squeezed the backpack until the fabric creaked. He asked quieter than I expected, "Is he yours?" I nodded. 4. He came closer, and I smelled expensive soap and burnt wood coming from him like a fireplace. His expression wasn't pity. It was contained irritation, as if I had ruined his perfect morning just by being there. He opened the gate enough for me to pass, but stood in the middle, blocking it, and pointed to the ground outside. Leave that backpack there. I froze. I didn't have anything valuable, but that was everything I had in the world. A change of clothes for Ethan. A nearly empty bottle of child medicine, a folded photo, crumpled documents. I shook my head very slowly, trying to seem polite. I prefer to keep it. His look hardened. He took a step forward and spoke without raising his voice. I said, "Leave it." That was when I saw a second man appearing from the side of the garden. Coming too fast, hand near his waist like someone who's done this before. Security, of course. The street was empty, and suddenly I felt too small to even apologize. I tried to retreat, but the gate behind me had already closed halfway, as if wanting to trap me in the middle. The guard went straight for the backpack and pulled the strap with a short movement. The fabric tore with a dry snap, and some things fell onto the stone ground: the baby bottle, a pack of broken cookies, a little shirt of Ethan's. I bent down quickly, trying to gather them. And that was when the man with the watch pointed at my face, as if I were a suspect for having hands. "Are you trying to rob me?" "Is that it? You people do that?" he said. "You people," with disgust, and I felt my jaw lock. I raised my open palm, showing I had nothing. But he was already assembling the scene in his head. I was the threat. I was the mistake that needed to be erased. And then came the unforgivable part. The guard reached out to grab Ethan from my arm, as if he were just another object to separate and inspect. I turned my body instinctively, protecting him, and Ethan woke up scared, letting out a cry that hit the gate like an alarm. The man with the watch took a step and said coldly, "If you don't cooperate, I call the police now. And they will take you. And he goes into the system. Understood?" I stood there, in the middle of the gravel, with my things scattered on the ground, my son crying, and a huge gate surrounding me as if I had invaded a forbidden world. In that second, I understood I wasn't asking for food. I was asking for permission to continue being a mother. If you've ever had someone treat you like trash just to feel important, subscribe to the channel, because what happened next was the kind of thing you never forget. I stood so still that only my fingers moved, squeezing the torn strap of the backpack, like it was a tug-of-war rope. Ethan was crying loudly, mouth open in fright, and the guard kept his hand outstretched, insisting on pulling him from my arm. I took a step to the side, pressed my back against the metal of the gate, and raised my voice for the first time. "Take your hand off." My throat scratched when I screamed, but I didn't back down. I saw the camera at the top of the gate turn a little, following the scene, and that was like throwing gasoline on a match. I spat the words at the man with the watch. "You want to call the police?" "Call them? But call them looking at this camera too." I shoved my hand in my pocket, pulled out my phone with the cracked screen, and started recording, hands shaking with rage. The guard hesitated, as if my phone camera were a gun. "Say it again," I said, pointing the device at the man's face. "Say again that you're going to send my son to the system." The man took half a step back, and I saw his reflection in my phone lens, impeccable, clean, safe, and me there with dust on my knee, my son's things scattered on the ground. I swallowed hard, aimed the video at the gate, and screamed to the empty street. "Someone help me. She is recording everything up there too." If you think rich people don't care about witnesses, you've never seen the face of someone who realized they might become news. That was when I recognized him. It wasn't the face first, it was the tone of command, the same way of pointing and ordering. I had heard that on the other side of a commercial kitchen in downtown Chicago when I worked overnight washing pots. I zoomed in and spoke the name I remembered from the badge every manager kissed, Grant Halvorsen. "I know you," I said, and my jaw locked in a way that hurt. "I worked at your restaurant on Michigan Avenue. I asked for my late paycheck 3 times. I left empty-handed because you guys said I disappeared with stuff from the pantry." He blinked fast, like someone trying to erase a sentence from the air. "You don't know what you're talking about," he blurted out, but his voice failed at the end. I lowered the camera for just a second and showed the pack of broken cookies on the ground. "Look at this. You're calling me a thief because of this. And now you want to take my son from me." The guard looked at Grant, waiting for an order, and Grant froze. He rubbed the back of his neck, then looked at my phone as if he wanted to rip it from my hand, but he didn't. I took a step forward, very close to the gate, and pointed the video at his face again. "Are you going to call the police? Then call them now. I'll stay here. Only you're going to call with everyone listening." The silence lasted a second too long, until he let out a breath and made a short gesture with his hand, like someone surrendering their own arrogance. "Enough," he said to the guard, dryly. "Open it." The gate opened fully, and he pointed inside without facing me. "Get in. Go to the kitchen, now." I walked past him with Ethan clinging to me, the camera still recording, and I thought, either I just saved myself, or I just walked into a bigger trap. I walked in with Ethan clinging to me and felt the wooden floor creaking under the wet solace of my sneakers, as if the house were measuring me too. The kitchen was too big for anyone to cook alone. Stone countertops, hanging pots, warm light over the island. Grant pointed to a chair without offering any smile. "Sit, he eats first." He opened the fridge with the calm of someone who doesn't need to explain anything. Pulled out a dish, put it in the microwave, and punched in the time without looking at me. I kept my phone in my hand, camera recording, because the way he said "get in" was still stuck to my skin. He noticed the device and clenched his jaw. "Turn that off." I didn't answer. I just aimed the lens a little higher. When the microwave beeped, he placed the plate in front of me as if paying an old debt he hated remembering. Ethan grabbed the spoon with both hands and started eating fast, without even asking what it was. I saw Grant looking at my son the same way someone looks at their own mistake, without being able to touch it. He pulled out a chair, sat on the other side, and lowered his voice. "I don't want trouble. What happened out there was excessive." I tilted my head, pointing the camera. Excessive was threatening to take my son. He wiped his face briefly and spoke like he was giving an order to himself. "Okay, you sleep here tonight." Just tonight. Then came the blow. He slid a paper across the counter with a pen on top. "Sign it. It's just a statement that you entered of your own free will and that you want to turn this into a circus." I picked up the paper and read it slowly. It had lawyer phrases, it had pretty words to call me an intruder. It had a clause saying I would not record anything inside the property. I looked up and didn't blink. "So you want a roof?" And silence. He sat motionless for a second, and the security guard appeared at the kitchen door as if summoned by thought. Grant didn't order him to leave. He just said, "I'm trying to do the right thing here." I put the paper back on the counter, pushed the pen away with one finger, and kept my phone raised. The right thing would be to apologize and send that guy out of my sight. The guard took a half step, and I felt my whole body turn into a wall. I pulled Ethan closer to my chest and squeezed the spoon hard without dropping the camera. In the end, he caved in a weird way. It wasn't kindness, it was calculation. "Fine, no signature, but you go to the guest room, door closed. No wandering around the house." He grabbed a blanket and handed it to me without touching. Then he pointed to the hallway. "Second door on the left, upstairs." I went up with Ethan in my arms, the blanket draped over my arm, and every step seemed too high. The room was clean, smelled of soap and fresh sheets, a lamp lit as if someone had prepared it before I existed. I wedged the chair under the doorknob by instinct and left my phone charging with the screen facing me. Downstairs, I heard Grant's voice low, cutting through the hallway like a knife. "No, I'm not asking for advice. I'm telling you. If this leaks, I'm dead." The whole house went quiet after that, and I understood it wasn't just about food. I had entered the place where powerful people keep secrets, and I was holding a video in my hand. The sound that healed the silence, I came down early, before the sun really broke, because sleeping there felt wrong, like I was wearing clothes that didn't belong to me. The kitchen was already awake, lights on, coffee maker dripping, a plate with toast arranged perfectly, like a showroom display. Ethan ran straight for the smell, and I had to grab him by the sleeve so he wouldn't knock everything over. That's when I noticed a simple thing. In that house, nobody ran. The sound of my son stomping on the floor echoed down the hallway like a broken rule. I clenched my jaw, waiting for someone to appear screaming. But it was Grant who showed up, dress shirt on, hair done, dark circles he tried to hide. He stopped at the door and just watched Ethan laughing to himself because of a bit of butter on his nose. "Is he always like this?" he asked, as if talking about a rare animal. I wiped Ethan's face with my finger and answered without looking at him. "He's a child." Grant grabbed a mug and leaned against the counter, but didn't sit. It was like he didn't know where to put his body near us. I kept my phone in my pocket because I had recorded enough for him to understand I wasn't too easy to erase, but I didn't want to live with a camera in my hand. He pointed to the pack of broken cookies I had gathered and left in a corner. "You didn't need to bring that." I gave a short smile, humorless. I don't have the luxury of leaving anything behind. The sentence hung in the air, heavy. He didn't reply. At breakfast, he started asking questions that were too small for a guy with a house that size. Do you have family here? No. Why didn't you go to a shelter? I stopped with the spoon halfway up and squeezed Ethan's cup until the rim marked my finger. Because they separate mothers and sons. I said it looking straight at him, leaving no room for judgment. They say it's protocol. I say it's punishment. Grant lowered his gaze to the table and stirred his coffee without drinking, the spoon hitting the porcelain in an irritating rhythm. He swallowed hard and asked another. And his father? I didn't raise my voice. I just pushed my chair back a little and stood up. That part isn't on the menu today. Ethan pulled my hand, and I sat down again because none of this was his fault. Throughout the morning, I started cleaning without anyone telling me to, because my body didn't know how to stay still when everything depended on me being useful. I wiped down the counters, organized the pantry, folded dish towels like it was evidence in a trial. The security guard followed me from a distance, not speaking, just watching, and that kept me burning inside. When I opened a cupboard, I found unopened boxes of gourmet food, imported chocolate, and a bunch of stuff I'd never seen in a normal pantry. I thought about the shelter with the waiting list and squeezed the cloth until it was damp with sweat. Grant appeared in the hallway, saw the scene, and said, "You don't have to do that." I looked at him and said flatly, "I need to. Because I know how this ends." Late in the afternoon, Grant called me. And Ethan to the living room, a huge room, fireplace, sofa no one sat on, and a silence that felt planned. He stood, hands in pockets, looking like he was about to negotiate a deal. I have restaurants, several, and I need someone in the central kitchen. Someone reliable. I raised an eyebrow. Reliable? He clenched his jaw, remembering what he said outside. I was wrong yesterday. The word wrong came out hard, like a stone. But I won't repeat it. He looked at Ethan and then at me. If you accept, I'll put you on the payroll. Salary, a room here for now. And no police, no video, no war. I stayed silent for a second because I heard the whole offer, and underneath it, I heard his fear of becoming a headline. I rested my hand on the back of the sofa and said, I accept the work. I don't accept being erased. He nodded slowly, as if that sentence hit the right spot. And for the first time, I saw a real crack in him, not pity, not arrogance. Something that looked like memory. If you've ever had to swallow your pride to save someone you love, subscribe to the channel. Because the following Friday showed that not every offer comes with safety. Sometimes it comes with an emergency that changes everything. The fever night, I thought the first week there had been the worst. I was wrong. On Friday, the sky opened up early, thick rain beating against the glass as if wanting to get inside too. And Ethan started changing in a way I recognized instantly. First, he got too quiet. Then he stopped asking for water. I touched his forehead and pulled back like I had touched a hot stove. I pulled the old thermometer from the backpack, shook it, waited for the seconds that felt like minutes, and when it beeped, I didn't even need to see clearly to know it was high. I grabbed his coat, shoved his little legs into his pants in a hurry, and searched for my phone with a shaking hand, dialing a number I didn't even remember the name of, but it just rang and rang. I ran down the stairs with him in my arms, calling for Grant in the hallway. Because I didn't know that city, I didn't have a car, and I wasn't going to stay there waiting for it to pass. My voice came out broken. He's burning up. I need a hospital. Grant appeared from the living room as if he were already standing. And when he saw Ethan limp in my arms, his face lost the rest of its pose. He didn't ask smart questions. He just barked a short order to the guard. Get the keys. Now. And turned to me. I'll drive. I saw his hand grip the back of the chair hard, knuckles white, and that told me everything. He wasn't thinking about reputation. He was thinking about arrival. The garage looked like another world. Aligned cars, white light, smell of rubber and cleaning products. Grant put Ethan in the back seat carefully and locked the belt with a dry click. I got in next to him, holding my son's hand, and he peeled out the way a rich man does when something finally refuses to obey him. The rain slashed the windshield in a crazy rhythm, and the headlights of other cars turned into long smears. With every brake, my shoulder hit the door. I saw Grant grip the steering wheel tight and lean his body forward as if he could push the traffic away. He didn't say, "It's going to be okay." He just said, "Tell me where it hurts. Tell me if he's breathing." I answered as best I could. "He's too hot. He's fading." and I heard him let out a low, short curse like someone blaming himself for having no power over that. At the EI, the automatic door opened and closed with that freezing hospital breath. I ran to the counter with Ethan in my arms, and the clerk started talking about documents, insurance, registration. Grant appeared by my side and slammed his card on the counter like it was a gun. "Now, he's a child." The woman looked at the card, then at his face, and her tone changed instantly, as if someone had pushed a button. In minutes, a nurse pulled us inside, put Ethan on a gurney, took off his shirt, stuck a needle in, checked his pressure, asked questions too fast. I stayed by the side, holding my son's sneaker in my hand because they took it off him in a hurry, and I didn't want to lose even that. Grant stayed a step back, motionless, watching every move, and when Ethan let out a weak moan, I saw Grant clench his own fist hard, as if that were the only way not to collapse in front of me. The hours turned into a hallway without a clock. I paced back and forth, read the same poster on the wall 10 times, sat down and stood up without noticing. When the doctor finally appeared, he didn't come with a tragedy face, and I only realized that when my legs stopped failing. He smiled small and said, "He's going to be fine. It was an infection." We caught it in time. I let out a breath in an ugly way, almost a sound, and my hands started shaking for real. I tried to say thank you, but the word wouldn't come out. Grant came closer, and without asking permission, he pulled me into a quick, firm hug, like someone holding someone who is about to fall. I didn't push away. I stayed there, leaning against his shirt, smelling rain and hospital mixed together, and I thought something that scared me. That man wasn't just a gate. He was starting to become part of our story. The love born from respect after that night. The house didn't go back to normal, because I realized normal had never existed there, only well-paid silence. Ethan stayed a few days for observation, then came back with antibiotics and a hospital wristband he didn't want to take off, as if it were a trophy. Grant became routine in our guest room, appearing at the door with a pharmacy bag, a juice box, a new thermometer. He knocked twice, waited for me to say come in, and only then entered. Never invade. Never crossed the line. But I saw him stopping to listen to Ethan tell some nonsense story, and it was as if a small noise was fixing something big inside that man. I started really cooking in his kitchen, not just cleaning. And he started appearing by chance when the smell of warm bread took over the hallway. I didn't trust him all at once. Not even close. I kept my phone charged. I knew where the exits were. I mentally noted everything he promised: registration, salary, temporary housing. But his actions didn't have the rush of someone wanting to buy forgiveness. It had consistency. One day, he left a folder with papers on the table. Simple employment contract, health insurance, and an envelope with cash. I pushed the envelope back. "I don't take charity." He clenched his jaw and replied, "Then call it in advance. You're going to need clothes for Ethan. He's not going to school with shoes full of holes." I took the envelope with anger. Not at him, at the world, and shoved it in my backpack. He didn't smile. "Oh." He just nodded, as if respecting my pride the right way, without mockery. One afternoon, he called me to the living room and placed an open laptop on the table, showing a community college website. "I saw that you write well," he said, pointing to the lists and notes I left on the fridge. "Did you finish high school?" I stood up, arms crossed, and said, "This isn't a job interview, Grant." He raised his hands, surrendering. "I know, but you're not going to be stuck here washing floors forever." I swallowed hard, because that sentence hit every door that had closed in my face. "And why does that matter to you?" He looked at the unlit fireplace, then back to me. "Because I'm tired of seeing strong people becoming statistics." I froze. The word statistic sounded like someone who reads too many newspapers, but his face looked like someone who had lived through too much. And for the first time I understood, he was trying to fix something old, and I had stepped into the middle of it without asking. It was in the garden, a few days later, that he said what had been circling without courage. I was hanging sheets on the makeshift clothesline, and Ethan was running after a ball the security guard had given him. Grant appeared at my side with 2 mugs of coffee and watched my son run as if it were television. He handed me a mug and asked, without looking directly, "Do you still feel like you're just passing through here?" I stopped with the clothespin in my hand and stayed silent for a second that felt too long. The answer that came out was true and scared me. "No." I looked at him. Here is our home, at least for now. He let out a breath slowly, as if he had been holding it since the gate. His hand gripped the mug tightly and he spoke low. Then let me be part of it too, not as the owner of the house. As someone who won't disappear when it gets hard. I didn't answer with a speech. I just felt my eyes fill up and I wiped them quickly with my sleeve, mad at myself for doing that in front of him. He didn't touch me. He just stood there, waiting for my choice like a man who finally learned to ask. The house that became a home, I won't lie to you. I expected life to charge for that moment in the garden. I expected everything to fall apart, for someone to show up with a camera, a lawsuit, public humiliation, anything that reminded us everyone in their place. But the house kept changing in a quiet way, as if the right noise had been authorized. Ethan started having a routine, waking up, eating breakfast with crumbs on his chin, putting on his little backpack and going to a public school nearby, with the new sneakers Grant pretended were left over. I started working in the central kitchen of his restaurants. Apron, badge, salary hitting the account right on time. The first paycheck I saw in the account, I stared at the phone screen for a full minute like it was a scam. I raised my fist, took a deep breath, and only then texted a friend. It's coming in. For real. Grant changed too. He didn't become a saint. He didn't turn into a nice movie character. He remained tough when needed, remained demanding, kept that voice of owning everything. Only now he applied it in another direction. One day I saw him fire a manager in front of me because the guy made a joke about a newly arrived female employee, and Grant didn't raise his voice. He just said, "You won't use my name to humiliate anyone." The manager tried to laugh, tried to justify, and Grant pointed to the door. Simple. Later in the kitchen, he came to me and said, "I was wrong with you at that gate. I won't repeat it." I didn't answer with a hug. I just nodded and kept chopping onions because respect for me has always been action, not phrases. The idea of the community kitchen didn't start as a businessman's charity. It started as shame. I was unloading food boxes at the restaurant and saw the waste, bread going to the trash, good food leaving because it passed the time. I turned to Grant and said, "This here feeds 20 families. And it goes to the trash." He clenched his jaw, looked at the boxes, and said, "Then show me how to do it right." We started small, almost hidden. Partnerships with a community center in Waukegan, volunteers from the team, formal donations with receipts. On the first day, I served soup with a steady hand and saw mothers in line with children in their arms, the same way I had been. I didn't make a speech. I just handed plate after plate, looking them in the eye. Grant stayed in the back, wearing a cap, trying not to draw attention, helping to carry boxes as if that erased something inside him. It didn't erase it, but it changed it. And Ethan, my son, became living proof of what an open door can do. He grew up with an easy laugh, with a scribbled notebook with stickers on the fridge, with that annoying kid way of asking questions at the wrong time. One day he asked Grant out of nowhere, "Were you sad before us?" I almost dropped the mug. Grant stood still for a second and answered. I was quiet, and Ethan blurted out, "Good thing you learned to be loud." I had to turn my face not to cry right there. Grant laughed for real short, but real and messed up his hair carefully, as if afraid to break the moment. Everything started with a doorbell, with a request I made without believing anyone would hear, and with a man who had the courage not to repeat the story of his own childhood. I don't know if I believe in destiny, but I believe in decision. I decided to ring. He decided to open. And I tell you one thing, I would do it all again. And you, would you have forgiven? If this story hooked you, leave a like, and if you got this far, comment where you're listening from. I read everything. I didn't get a new life because someone pitied me. I got it because I refused to be erased. Grant opened the gate, but I was the one who paved the way, supporting my son, facing the threat and making it clear I wasn't a problem to be hidden. Justice didn't come with a siren, nor with a pretty speech. It came in small, repeated decisions: registration, salary, school for Ethan, respect inside the kitchen, and the community kitchen feeding people the world pretends don't exist. The man who lives surrounded by luxury learned that silence isn't peace. And I learned that asking for help didn't make me weak, it made me alive. I would do it all again. And you? Would you have forgiven? If this story hooked you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're listening from because I read everything.